Hey kids, I just saw Eye in the Sky. I'm gonna start off by saying you should see this movie for a great many reasons. First of which, the director of this movie is the same director that did X-Men Origins Wolverine. Yes, that shitbox. And then he comes out of nowhere with this little indie movie, proving that Wolverine was not his fault, because this movie is great. On a slightly more sad note, this is the last time you'll see Alan Rickman perform in a film. If you don't recognize the name, you'll probably recognize him in every single Harry Potter movie as Professor Snape, and, of course, Hans Gruber from Die Hard, the best Christmas movie ever. Very unfortunate, but I will say he goes out like a champ. For his last performance ever, it was stellar. You also have Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, and you also have Helen Mirren. Those are the three characters that you're probably going to focus on. Now, as for the plot, I won't give away any spoilers, but this movie is essentially centered around a drone strike, and it kind of follows the ethics, the checks and balances, and also the legal ramifications of what it takes to actually perform a drone strike. And it goes through like all the logistics, and basically everything you need to do to prevent collateral damage under any circumstances. Believe me when I tell you, this is one of those rare movies that can put you in a very small environment and you're still so invested. This movie takes place in 3 rooms and a house in Somalia, and that's it. That's the entire movie. Gavin Hood got perfect performances out of everybody, and it was so tense, it was so suspenseful. So just to give you the layout, in the house they have 3 people that are on England's top 5 most wanted list. They start off in one place, and then they gotta coordinate a couple of people on the ground, and then they gotta have an eye in the sky. And that's where Aaron Paul and his little sidekick's character come in. They're in a control room slash satellite viewing room. They're the ones that are in charge of seeing everything, and they're the ones that focus in on everything. And then you have Helen Mirren's character, who's kind of the coordinator in a mission control room. That's where they come up with all the logistics and all the calculations, and then coming up with like alternate strategies, stuff like that. And then you have Alan Rickman, who's kind of an attaché between the mission control room and what I like to call the bureaucrat room, because it's basically Alan Rickman on a computer communicating with Helen Mirren, but he's surrounded by politicians, and they're making the overall decisions. So it starts off, they're just going to do a search and seizure because one of the most wanted is actually a British citizen. So their top priority is extraditing her back to the country so they can put her on trial. The situation escalates to the point where they are debating on whether or not they should just carry out a drone strike and just destroy the whole house. So then, basically a political and military shitstorm occurs where everybody's arguing, nobody knows what the best decision is. Literally, every single person in this movie has a slightly different agenda, to the point where no 2 characters are exactly the same, which I think is kind of a nice theme because it throws out the theory that the world isn't just black and white. There's billions of variables that you have to take into consideration. And when you're dealing with situations of life and death, it gets very heated very quickly. But that's also the crux of subjectivity, because everybody in the film actually has a valid point. And technically, none of them are wrong. So then it turns into this much bigger thing where they have to call the US Secretary of State, and then they gotta call the Prime Minister, because nobody is sure what the exact right decision is. And it's really divisive. Everybody wants to get the bad guy. Everybody wants justice, and they want to save lives, ultimately. But in this particular instance, if it comes at a cost, is that cost really worth it? And the movie does really try to emphasize the value of even just one human life. Because what makes that one human life any more or less important than any other human life? And they don't really touch on the psychology of that. The film does have its own agenda, but it's very good-natured. Anyway, I'm gonna end it there because I don't want to spoil anything. Gavin Hood, you have earned my respect, sir. There wasn't one bad line of dialogue in this movie, and there wasn't one bad delivery of a line in this movie. The acting was fantastic. There's a few little action scenes, and they were pretty well done. I will admit there were a couple of spots in the movie where you're just like, really? Why don't you just do this, 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 and this? And then like 2 minutes later, they actually do A, B, and C. Whatever you're thinking that they could pull off in the movie, they actually do try to pull off. So you just gotta be a little bit patient for some part. Another great point in the movie is that sometimes when you're watching it, something little happens, like one of the politicians says no or gets butthurt about something, and you probably are formulating comments in your own head about certain characters in the movie. The cool thing is, another character in the movie will say probably what you're thinking. You're gonna find at least 1, if not 2 people in the movie that you can relate to, somehow. And I think the reason why they only got those 3 marquee names, Alan Rickman, Helen Mirren, and Aaron Paul, was because those are the 3 main characters that you identify with for the most part. Like, they represent each room with how you as an audience member feel, and then all the other characters are kind of like subcategories, if that makes any sense. But anyway, overall, great movie. I saw it with my dad. We both had a great time. And again, Alan Rickman, stellar performance. He has one of the very last lines in the movie, and it is a very powerful line. I won't say it, but it's very, very good. No exaggeration. This movie is straight up Academy Award level. Hands down. And of course, at the end of the movie, they did a little in memoriam for Alan Rickman, and that kind of got me a little choked up. Overall, out of 10, 9.5. Easy. And it's Alan Rickman's last movie, so if for no other reason, check it out. See the man work. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, give me a like, leave a comment, subscribe, you know what to do. Catch you kids later.